everyone. Welcome to the next Races to Watch Live. I'm Ashanti Gholar, the president of Emerge. And throughout the day until 7 p.m. Eastern, we are going live at the top of every hour with some of the amazing organizations that we work with that are turning out voters and candidates today. And I am now joined by Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino. So I know y'all have seen her everywhere because she is a staple on news shows. And we're excited that she was able to take some time out today to chat with us. Maria Teresa, how are you?
I'm terrific. And I love that sweatshirt. Electable. That's why we're all here, right? To elect as many women as possible, including Kamala Harris tonight.
Yes, I'll be rocking the I'm Speaking shirt later. But first, Maria Teresa, tell us a little bit about Voto Latino and the work that you've been doing this cycle.
Sure. So Voto Latino, we focus specifically on young Latino voters, and because we know that they have an outsized influence in their families, and they're also the largest pool of unregistered voters. So Ashanti, this cycle, we went from registering 200,000 voters that we did in 2018 to over 601,000 voters this cycle.
Wow.
And it's all in 6 states because we recognize that the power of the flex is real if you are very targeted, as you know. And we decided that in the last 2 election cycles, 49% of Latino registered voters never got a phone call because most of the time they were low propensity voters. And we're like, you know what? Let's fill that gap. So we targeted 3.7 million low propensity voters in Georgia, North Carolina, in Texas, in Arizona, in Florida, in North Carolina. I'm sure you're seeing a pattern. And the whole purpose was to say, you know what, join us, vote this year. The water's warm.
Okay. So there's been so much talk about Latino voters, and we know that the community is not a monolith. Not everyone is the same. So what have you really been seeing with those young voters this cycle that maybe you haven't seen in previous cycles?
Most of these young voters are rightfully ticked off. They are a group of young people that have grown up, whether it's in Georgia, whether it's North Carolina, Arizona, or Texas, where they have grown up under legislators and governors who have passed show me your paper laws. And they grew up under this group of fear that for themselves and their families. And guess what? Now 4 million of them are 18 years old that weren't 18 4 years ago. And they are coming out in force. And so what we see in the Latino community is very much generational. The older Latinos have a tendency of being more on the conservative side. But the younger Latinos, not only are they more progressive, when we polled our young people, like, what is driving you to the polls this year? The top 3 issues was healthcare under COVID, jobs under COVID, and for young Latinos, racial injustice and equity that exists among Black and Latino communities. That literally tied for number 1. And just so that some background, Ashanti, when we took one community out of that sentence, it dropped. So there was like this integrated understanding that our lives are so intertwined with the success and the ambitions of the African American community that we have to stand there together. And this was the first time in 16 years that I've been doing this, Ashanti, that our community actually gave voice to racism and institutional prejudice and police brutality. And that to me showed that we are at a different moment in time where as communities together, we can make real systemic change. And I find that really powerful.
That is powerful. I know during the summer when we were dealing with all the racial unrest, it was really great to see so many of my friends in the Latino community like you writing these articles, speaking out, because when we talk about being in this together, we really are, because we know that it's the Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities that always have the most to lose. And it's election day. We're already seeing the reports of harassment at the polls, predominantly Black and Brown communities. What are still some of the barriers that Latino voters face when it comes to wanting to exercise this right that you wake up every day and encourage them to do?
The biggest one is transparency. on purpose, make the process seem so complicated and so hard, where in fact, when you register to vote and you do it through Voto Latino or your Secretary of State's, it should take you no more than 15 minutes, right? And then they try to basically obfuscate and try to tell people that they can't, that they have to use a different ID. And that, so our job at Voto Latino is to make it as transparent as possible. We know that it is a strategy to either suppress the vote or to dissuade the vote. And what I mean by dissuading the vote is that we started seeing a lot of shenanigans coming out of the Republican Party, very similar to what we saw in 2016, trying to convince Black and brown communities that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were really similar. So not to vote for the top of the ticket and instead vote down ballot. That's a farce. That's a lie. We know that what they're trying to do is trying to equivocate two people that could not be more broadly different, with a completely different vision of America. And so we at Voto Latino do a lot of combating disinformation with real facts. And the idea is that if you are an empowered voter, then you can actually have agency over how our government and our democracy is actually run. So for us, it's really about providing the basic blocks and really explaining to people, not just what's on the ballot, but how they can inform themselves and share that information with others.
You talked earlier, you're doing lots of work in Texas, Arizona, Florida. The vote turnout there has already been amazing. We know that almost 100 million Americans have exercised their right to vote, but there's also some great Latino candidates that are running in those states. Is there anyone that's really exciting you that you think is going to help lift up the top of the ticket? Because we know, particularly over the past few cycles, people are really pumped about their down ballot candidates, and more people are turning out to vote for the down ballot than they are the top of the ticket.
Well, I mean, absolutely. And I think I actually think that in some places we're actually kind of having like the Virginia effect, right? Where Northrop won, but he won because they had such great candidates. And if you ask me what states I'm looking at two. I'm looking at Georgia and I'm looking at Texas, because Ashanti, one of those two, if not both, will flip tonight. And that's incredibly exciting. But look at Texas. Texas, you have this amazing candidate. Her name is Candace Valenzuela. She shouldn't be in the running, but she is. You know, she's the first. She'd technically be the first Afro-Latina that we sent into Congress, and she is all power in deep red Texas because she's speaking truth to what's happening in the Latino community. In Texas, sadly, Latinos are not just in Texas, but in the country, we are the leading cause of death. COVID is the leading cause of death among our population right now, as well as getting COVID itself. And so she's been speaking to what those realities really are and how do we actually get the resources. And she is inspiring a whole hell of a lot of young people to vote. At Voto Latino, we started this as an experiment 16 years ago with this basic theory that young Latinos have an outsized influence in their families. Ashanti, guess what? The people right now leading the charge and outperforming their peers and their friends and family are young Latino voters. They are meeting that charge. The ones that are closely behind are those millions of people who sat it out in the last election, the people that we've been contacting, because we recognize that the only way we have regime change is that, and I call this, people ask me, well, what is Voto Latino strategy? I was like, our strategy at Voto Latino is the Doug Jones strategy. Call all the voters.
Yeah. I love that. And with all of these young voters who are coming out this cycle, we know that we want to keep them engaged every year because elections happen every year. I know like people are like, oh, I know you'll be so excited about 2021, Ashanti, when things slow down. And I'm like, there's no slow down here at a bird. There are elections every single year. Yeah. We need to get women elected every single year. So for those of us that have the young people in our families, in our network, what are some of the things that we can do to continue to elevate the work of Voto Latino and tell these young people, you got to stay engaged after Election Day, because there's so much that we need to do to keep our democracy going.
Well, and I think what COVID has exposed is how much work we need to do. right? Like we need to, coming out of COVID, we're going to have to rebuild this country in a way that is actually reflective of our communities. And that is voting people into power that look like us, Ashanti. Oftentimes people say, oh, the system is rigged. And I always say, no, the system works as it's meant to for the people who occupy the voting booth. Yep. Our charge is to occupy that voting booth and occupy it with people that share our values, that look like us, that believe in our community and the strength of our community when we move forward. And so for young people, I always say, vote your hearts out, hold them accountable, volunteer, and run for office yourself. Yes. Because if you see the people who are really changing our country right now, it's the Lena Hidalgos, it's the Michael Tubbs, it's the young people that are saying enough. It's about time we take over the reins, because I don't have to convince a young person that climate change is real. I just need to convince them to vote so that we could actually get back at the seat of the table to actually fix this thing. And so if folks are still interested, we are still looking for volunteers. We're still texting people right now. So if they text volunteer to 73179 from the comfort of your own home, you can text the heck away all the way to voters so that they can get what they need, either free rides to the polls through Lyft. We're giving away free rides. We'll provide you with all the information you need, but the most important thing is that we need to do this together. And Ashanti, congratulations on what you've built. Sometimes the moment is met only because we have talent like you. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for what you do. And, I love that plug for running for office. Always appreciate those. And please, everyone, if you have time to volunteer tonight and you want to support Voto Latino, follow up with Maria Teresa at the information she just gave us. But even after Election Day, can you give us the website, the social media handles, so everyone can stay engaged?
Yeah, so please follow us at Voto Latino. That's on Instagram. That's across all our platforms, at Voto Latino. If you want to volunteer or you want to sign up, you can go to votolatino.org, and we have a whole host of things that you can do. The fun thing about us, Ashanti, is that when you register to vote, we don't leave you alone. We basically identify what is it that you care about, and then we say we need you to volunteer. So we have under COVID trained over 10,000 volunteers who have collectively contacted over 2.9 million voters. Their thumbs are bigger, they're stronger, and they keep going.
That is so amazing. Maria Teresa, thank you for everything that you do, your leadership, running an amazing organization. Just so proud to be in this movement with you. Everyone, make sure you stay connected to Voto Latino, and we will see you at the top of the next hour for another Races to Watch Live. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Go vote if you haven't already.
Yes.